Brewing Business, Episode 3.
One of those things where we had a plan and we're all trying to pull the pieces together. It just kind of happened.
Welcome to Brewing Business, where brewing, business, and beer collide for yet another epic show. Join your host, Tim Nichols, as he talks with today's top brewers and brewery owners. Mash the barley, boil the wort, add a dash of hops, sit back, and grab a beer. Cheers.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Brewing Business Podcast. Today's guest is from Tuckahoe, New York, Mike LaMothe from Broken Bow Brewing Company. Mike, I just gave you a slight introduction, so go ahead and just tell us about you and the brewery.
Yeah, and first off, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. So Broken Bow, we're about a year and a half old. Been in the building for about 3 years when you include construction, everything along those lines. We're family owned and operated. I'm the head brewer, and I've got the rest of the family involved. My younger sister runs the lab. Her name's Casey. I've got Kristen, who runs our marketing side. Lyle, my dad, runs our sales. And Kathy, my mom, runs all of the administration. She's kind of the glue. We're named after a small town in Nebraska, Broken Bow. It's where my mom grew up at. And it's something that we kind of felt carried a little bit of the family side into the name, because we always went out there and we'd visit my grandfather. He has a farm out there. And so we always like going out there. It felt like family. And it's also a name that's pretty easy to market with. We've got a number of beers, such as our Broken Heart Stout, that kind of carry the broken theme through it. So yeah, about a year and a half in, we've got 4 mainstay beers. We've done I would estimate somewhere around 30 beers in the past year and a half. And we're trying to crank up to somewhere around a new beer per week, mostly on our pilot system.
So you have the whole family in there, which is crazy. And did everybody get into it? Like, do they love beer as well? Or is this something you kind of dragged them into? Or how does that work out?
It all started about a little over 10 years ago. I ordered a home brewing kit online, showed up. I absolutely loved it from the start, but I broke my stove on, I think it was the second batch. Either way, I knew I wanted to keep doing it, and I knew that my stove was broken. So I called up my dad and said, hey, you want to try out this new hobby? So I brought all the equipment over to his house. We started doing batches, of course, then scaled it up a little bit larger volume, a little bit more complicated with the recipes. Of course, we went to all grain pretty quickly. And as we were doing it, the rest of the family kind of saw what was going on, pitched in a couple times. And I'd say everyone in the family, including my mom, has done at least 10 batches on our pilot system. And we're working on everyone having their own kind of signature beers as well. So everyone does have a real passion towards it.
Awesome. An entire family of homebrewers. That's pretty nuts.
Yeah, pretty crazy. Not something you really hear a lot of.
So where were you before you started the brewery?
Well, I worked in finance for about 6 years. I liked what I did, and then when the market started turning, it became a little bit more of a grind going in all the time, and dealing with people that quite often were really just unhappy. And I decided it really wasn't for me. So I left that job and actually went away to Spain to get my MBA, thinking that I was going to basically come back and enter into a different side of finance, one that maybe was a little bit better of a fit for me. And when I did do that, I found that it really just wasn't my passion. I do love finance. I just didn't really like the jobs that I had to do in it. So I immediately transitioned over where I was talking to my family saying, well, what could we do? Maybe we could get a business together. My dad had just retired his job. My mom was looking at getting back into the workplace. So was my older sister. She was a stay-at-home mom. My younger sister was just about to graduate college. She went to Carnegie Mellon with a degree in neuroscience. So she's the smart one in the family. And we kind of looked at each other and said, how can we marry a passion with different skill sets, and what would that look like? And we all immediately came right to brewing.
Wow. I mean, I mean, just there's like the background of it. I'm just kind of like stunned here, just like how you guys have all just been able to come together as a family and then just create, an awesome brewery. And so I just want to know a little bit more about like your time in Spain. Did you find beer there? I mean, was that like you kind of develop your passion for it being overseas at all, or?
Uh, yes and no. I realized when I was out there how much I missed it. Because at the time, I understand that it's changed quite a bit from what I'm reading and hearing, but at the time, there really wasn't much of a beer scene out there. And I remember being thrilled when I could find a Budweiser because it tasted like beer from home. But when you go to the bar out there, a lot of the times you won't even order the brand or style of beer. You just order a size of a glass. Which kind of is indicative of how little they really cared about it. So I did find a couple little places out there. There was a great little German brew pub that I love to go to. I started talking to the owner a little bit. I actually worked on a project with a couple of other people in my program about developing a business plan around starting a brewery. But it really wasn't driven by a great scene out there. It was driven by a lack, a void, I guess you could say. And so it did kind of stoke the fire a little bit.
Okay, so you're just trying to find a niche within the area, which you did through the just a small brew pub, and I guess it really took your passion to the next level once you got back. So
yeah, it sure did. I never really thought it was going to. None of this was one of those things where we had a plan and we're all trying to pull the pieces together. It just kind of happened, which I think was one of the great things, because when something just happens and it's not something that you're trying to force a plan together, I think it means that it's driven a little bit more by passion, which is extremely valuable in any business.
yeah, absolutely. So with all the successes you've had so far, with bringing the whole family into it, bringing just like just combining everybody's skills together. What's kind of like some of the setbacks you've had so far since you've started this whole journey?
Oh gosh, I don't think I could even begin to list them. I don't think we have enough time.
Right.
It's been remarkable how many lessons we've learned, and I like to look at it that way. We always try to reinvent things here. I've got a great team on the production side that we try to question everything that we're doing. And a lot of that was driven by our brew house. We purchased used. It's German made. It was at a brewery in Japan for about 15 years. And when it arrived here, it had a good amount of work that needed to be done on it. And being a small business, we can't hire the real professionals to come in and fix it. So we had to start breaking things apart as we noticed things that weren't working. Now that's a setback at the time. I remember our first batch took something around 18 hours to brew and never came to a boil. Eventually found its way down the drain because all the equipment was failing. So, you could look at that as being a setback, but we really have come to believe that is something that sets our beer apart from everyone else, because we know the equipment inside and out. We're able to make it work for whatever purpose we need to. And that could be a real advantage. So it's a lot of setbacks, but also a lot of lessons.
What's the barrel size of the equipment that you use?
It's technically a 10-barrel system. We have 10-barrel fermenters and brights. We quickly realized when we came out with our cans, we did one run of each style, 10-barrel run, and sold out in no time. So we really didn't have the capacity to support the cans. So we got a 60-barrel tank in the back, one fermenter, one bright. We're starting to look at more fermenters to accompany it. And so when we do the 60-barrel, we're actually able to get 15-barrel runs out of the current system. It's all oversized, very well-made German equipment. So we're able to get 15 barrels at times. So it ranges from 10 to 15.
So there's a lot of talk between craft beer connoisseurs that, bottles are better than cans and vice versa. I mean, why do you guys choose cans over bottles?
We did an extremely thorough analysis on it, and I'm a big believer that there's not a single blanket answer. It depends on your particular situation, if it's a good idea to do cans or bottles. We do still have some large format bottles for specialty beers, but it's certainly, I think we did something around maybe 500 bottles in the past year, and I can't even imagine. I know in the past week we canned about 20,000 cans, so it's definitely skewed towards cans. But basically, what it came down to is we're looking at all the expenses that are involved. You've got to pay rent on all that space that's occupied by all the cans if they're pre-printed. You could go with the shrink wrap ones, but that's something that we thought we really don't want to do. Bottles give you flexibility because you just slap a label right on it. So if you want to discontinue a beer or if you want to introduce a new one, it's relatively easy. Cans are not. We just introduced our fourth style, which is our red ale. And that was, I'd say, about 5 to 6 months in the making, getting everything designed, approved, getting SKUs, all that kind of stuff. So there's, you lose some flexibility, but the big thing that really convinced us, and it seems minor, but we thought it's actually pretty significant, is that cans are much easier to transport for the consumer. They fit in the fridge a lot better. You can bring it on a boat. You could bring it at the beach. We have a couple of racetracks in the area, things like that only allow cans. They don't allow bottles. So it's a very small reason that tipped us towards cans. But we've been really happy, and it's proven, I believe, to be the correct approach for us.
So you've been through all these trials and tribulations and just, bringing your whole family into this, and I'm sure like when you brought the idea of a brewery, they kind of looked at you like you were crazy. But what was that point where you just thought, I want to make beer my business?
I can't say there was a point. It just started kind of building. And the initial concept was that since my dad was in finance, we would work on some kind of a financial company. And we were kind of working on the idea, and we thought we would try to have a little nano on the side. And as we did the analysis, we realized that it's very, very difficult to make a nano successful. Plenty of people do it. But it's difficult to balance your home life with running a nano. And so we decided that we should scale it up a little bit more. And the idea kind of expanded, and eventually it just became clear that we need to go 100% into this or not at all. And we decided to do it.
So what's kind of a common problem or like a hurdle you got to jump over to get into this business that you guys have had to get into?
The biggest problem is always going to be, in my opinion, it's always money. You need to put a great deal of money into a brewery to make it successful. And even when you start becoming profitable, a lot of that money's got to go right back into it. I think that the biggest hurdle is coming to that understanding. I remember our first conversations were centering around everyone pitching in some money, and maybe we'd get this thing started on $20,000. And that, of course, is when we're looking at it as being a nano. And then when you start running the numbers, you begin to realize that it takes quite a bit more capital and quite a bit of know-how as well. So we did decide, obviously, that we had to put more money into it, significantly more money. And then I also did an apprenticeship over in Canada, Village Brewery. There's a gentleman over there, Larry Kerwin, who's the brewmaster. He's got a spectacular history of brewing and knows just about everything you can know about the topic. So he taught me a lot of the stuff that we needed to learn. And then we put in additional capital. And I think that was the biggest hurdle. And I think that's probably something that's pretty similar at most starting businesses, specifically in brewing.
If you wouldn't mind expanding a little bit on just kind of like the actual monetary amount of capital that you need to start a brewery of your size.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it really is going to depend on what you're trying to do. One thing that people don't understand very often is that if you're going to package it, it really almost is like adding a separate company. We also have a tasting room in house. We self distribute right now. We are talking to distributors because it's getting a little bit too big to handle. But um, each of those things is effectively, from our perspective, a separate business, and each one involves its own set of finances. So the easiest, most direct one would be the self distribution. If you're going to choose to do that, you need to have vehicles, you need to have drivers, you need to send out sales support, you need to have people making those calls, you have to have a guy that can go fix a draft line. So it becomes a little bit based on which of those aspects do you want to pick up. The brewing side, if you're looking to do a 10-barrel system and simply just brew, no tasting room, no distribution. There's also a lot of variables as far as do you own your own cooperage, things like that. But you can really start with this system. I imagine if you did use dairy tanks, you probably start somewhere around 50,000, and that's a good point to enter with. But you're going to have limited upside or limited capabilities as well. Our brew house is very unique in that we could use it to do decoction mashes, which is something we just did for our a Bock that we're about to release. And but as you would imagine, you add those capabilities, you add money, and then the building itself, the brewing portion of it is probably about the brewing and cellar side is probably about a third of the building. Tasting room's another third, and then storage for the remaining. So it really depends on all the pieces you're looking at. Cooperage on top, you could run $100 per keg, depending on the size. We already have a float of somewhere around, I want to say 500 kegs. Probably gonna be looking at adding more. So as you can see, the numbers really start to add up, and you could easily run a 10-barrel system and touch into $1 million for your expense. And then I'm sure there's guys out there that have a 10-barrel system that's more bare bones. They don't distribute. They rent their cooperage, no tasting room, and they probably are under six figures.
Wow. Okay. I didn't realize that there was just so much that that went into owning a brewery. I figured it would be like you make some beer, you put it in some bottles, and you sell it. Turns out it's a lot more than that.
Yeah, it can be. It can be that, and there's plenty of breweries out there that have it that way. And I mean, if you only do kegs, it's also much simpler. There's quite a bit less equipment needed. We have a pretty big section of our area that's designated for the canning equipment, and so it really depends on the pieces that you want to add in there, and that's why we look at it as all separate companies. Of course, they all feed in together and work with each other, but you do at the end of the day have a choice if you want to serve beers in house, if you want to do your own distribution, all those different options.
So it sounds like you guys have a lot going on and a lot of big things going on. So what's the next big thing that's going to go on for Broken Bow?
I would say it's going to be the distribution side. We're looking to maintain our distribution in the immediate area. We have the vehicles, we have the employees, but I actually think we have some distributors in house right now that are doing the tour and having the conversation. So that's going to be the next big thing on the actual business side. For the beer, we're working on getting a barrel aging program up and running. We've started doing quite a bit of sour beers. Just released our third one. Actually, I guess we haven't released it because we haven't come up with the name yet, but it's completed. We'll have a name within the next couple of days. So we're really trying to grow on the beer offering, and then also grow the size of our business through the use of distributors.
Awesome. So, Mike, you have done fantastic this first half of this interview, and I kind of want to bring it into the second half here with just a quick fire round of questions. Just
sure,
real quick, right off the top of your head, and then we'll just shoot right through them. You ready?
All right, sounds good.
So, where do you see the future of craft beer?
Bigger, a lot bigger. I think that the beer is getting better. More people are getting open to it. I think there's going to be more breweries, more competition amongst the brewers, but that's great for the consumer.
What's been one of the proudest moments you've had so far since opening?
It was I guess somewhere around 6 months into being open, I released a beer that's a sour strawberry wheat that is Lucy's sour strawberry wheat. That's named after my daughter, and we're going to start releasing it every year on her birthday, which is February 26th. Couldn't be prouder than releasing that beer.
Wow, that's right around the corner then.
Yeah, it's coming up. We're about to brew it probably next week.
If you could choose one internet website or resource to educate our listeners, what would it be and why?
So I'm going to do a pitch and a challenge to myself at the same time. So we've got brokenbowbrewery.com. I ran a blog for quite some time, and I've been talking about getting back onto it. It's been probably about a year since I wrote the last one. So the challenge is going to be to myself to update it. I promise I'll get one up there within the next probably 2 weeks. And I try to kind of give very direct insights into the business and what it takes. So I think that's a good one. And then the non-pitch one would be probrewer.com. It's a fantastic website. It's good for classifieds, but there's also just an amazing amount of knowledge if you do searches on all the different things that brewers have done in the past. And you get a real collective knowledge from people across the country.
So do you utilize any software like Beersmith or Beer Run?
Yeah, Beersmith. I'm a big fan of it. We also use quite a bit of Excel programs that we've built ourselves as far as water modification, and then the business side as well as far as inventory. But Beersmith is it's tried and true. Always works well.
And with this last question here, with all the knowledge you have now, and you could do it all over again, what would you do differently and why?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. As I mentioned earlier, there were so many lessons. The one thing that I almost want to go back and change would be the contractors we used when we built the place. It took them about a year longer than they were supposed to, but even then, those mistakes led to lessons for me. I can now basically do any of the electrical in the building, same with the plumbing, everything, and so I wouldn't change a thing.
Awesome. And for you listeners out there, you can catch all these notes and all these resources on the show notes after this episode. And Mike, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. And what's the best way we can connect with you? And then we're going to go ahead and say goodbye.
Always through the website. Go to brokenbowbrewery.com. I actually have all my direct information on there. I welcome emails. I've got a group of probably 20 to 30 people that email me all the time asking for different beer styles and giving me feedback. And I think that's just so cool to have that direct connection. So please, anytime anyone wants to, the email address is michael@brokenbowbrewery.com. Please get in touch. I'd love to hear.
Awesome, Mike. And thank you again for hanging out with us on Brewing Business, and have a good one.
All right, you too.
Thank you so much for listening. If you liked this episode, please go to iTunes, subscribe, rate, and review Brewing Business. And you can connect with me through the Brewing Business website, brewingbusinesspc.com, and on Twitter @TimNichols on tap. Until next time, cheers.